All right, welcome back to Visual Design for Multimedia. And we're going to go over a couple more things in WordPress today. We're going to explore widgets and plugins and just some really valuable plugins that are going to kind of change things for you and hopefully make your site safer and easier to use. So let's go ahead and log into our WordPress websites. I'm going to go ahead and go the direct way, wp-login.php. And I'm going to log in. So widgets have been around a long time. Widgets are like these little helper items. If you click on Appearance and go to Widgets, widgets are items that usually get added to a sidebar or a footer area. So you can see over here on the right, these are where widgets are added to. And then over here on the left, these are all the available widgets. And if I go to my website, should be able to show you a widget zone somewhere. Well, I guess I don't have a lot of widgets set up in here yet, so we're going to get some widgets going. My theme probably has to have the widgets turned on. But either way, by default, you end up getting a search bar widget, a recent posts widget, recent comments. And if you want to get rid of any of these, just open it up and hit delete. And you can come in here and get rid of all these sort of like default ones that WordPress activates for you. Like I said, some themes allow you in like the theme customization to turn these off, or sometimes they're not going to show up if you don't have footer zones already. But I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these so we have kind of a blank slate. There are some good ones in here. There's like a really nice one, this little custom HTML, where you can add a custom little snippet of HTML if there's a widget that can't do something for you. So I could add that to the optional sidebar. But you can also move these around from one widget to another. If I open that one up, you can see I can actually paste in custom HTML there. So that one has saved me many times when I've had to like put a certain like little promo graphic up or something that my regular widgets couldn't do. You can add an extra navigation menu. And so you can choose one of your menus from the menu system. I could say main menu and hit save. And I could just call this like, I'm not even going to give it a title right now. I'm just going to leave it open. RSS feeds. You can add a specific page link if you wanted to. You could add categories. You can add an audio little player. There's all sorts of there's like these little like add-on items. When we add some additional plugins, we're going to come back here and you're going to see how you can add some social media elements as well that get added with plugins, or sometimes come with different themes depending on the theme package that you go with. But there's some various stuff in here. Having a search isn't the worst thing in the world, so maybe I'll add that to my footer. I'll add that to footer 1 and just have general search as the title and save. And I could add a gallery if I wanted to. So I could add that. Recent photos, and then I could go to my media or upload some images and make a little gallery. There we go. And I'll save that. Now, to get these to actually show up, I'm going to go back to my Customize panel here. I think like any of the default themes, they're just going to show up. But because I've already kind of played around, oh, there we go. So just by adding search and that footer gallery, my footer has been populated now. So I actually have some things in the footer. The reason we're not seeing the sidebar is I believe because in the theme options, page settings, I went with a no sidebar layout. It's just a full width screen. So if I switch to this one, and then I think go to like an about page. There we go. Now my text would be over here, and here's that sidebar nav that I added. So, it really just depends on your layouts. Like I said, this is a full width layout, so there's no side widget zone. Looks like this one does have one, but it kind of like puts it just underneath, so that's kind of a little bit interesting. But this is kind of your traditional like 2-column layout. Sometimes you have a 3-column layout, and then we could add more widgets. And here's how they show up in the bottom. Okay, so that's widgets. Pretty simple stuff. Sometimes in here you'll have a separate widgets menu as well in your customize, and this allows you to add them right here as well. So I could add a widget to the sidebar on the right, and I could say let's add another search bar to the right. And then boom, they show up in the right. Pretty easy stuff. There's no save button on the widget zones. You just add them and they go automatic. That's just kind of an old school thing. You don't, I mean, there's the saves within the widgets themselves, but otherwise you can move them around and delete them by unfolding their little arrows and coming in there and seeing either the delete button or the save button. All right, so let's move on and talk about plugins. Plugins are really powerful. So we're going to go and look at plugins. I'm going to leave this page. It's fine. And you got to watch out. You don't want to just get old plugins from anywhere because plugins can cause security issues in your site if you get some old plugins that haven't been updated or weren't created properly. So right out of the bat, Bluehost has a plugin that gives you this whole Bluehost control panel up here. If you don't like that, you could always deactivate and that would actually disappear. You've got a Creative Mail by Constant Contacts that came from Bluehost. There's some Google Analytics from Monster Insights that you can work with. We'll get to that down the road. Hello Dolly is a classic. It's just like, it literally just is a line from Hello Dolly. It's been in WordPress since like day one, since it was originally a blogging platform. Jetpack is already in here in Bluehost, so we don't have to add it, but I'm going to show you how to work with Jetpack. And Opt-in Monster, you know, it's a pop-up plugin. I don't think we really need it. If there's stuff you don't need, I'm going to go ahead and delete that, or I'm sorry, at least deactivate it, because it all adds to the weight of your site. I'm going to deactivate the Constant Contacts. I don't really need that because I'm not doing any like newsletter stuff. WP Map Block. That's cool. It adds this map block that I was using on one of my pages. And forms, let's go ahead and leave that for now. We'll come back to forms in a little bit. So if let's look at Jetpack. Since Jetpack has already been added, let's go ahead and click on Jetpack. This is a really big, this is from a company called Automatic. It's a really big plugin. Some people don't like it so much because it can slow down site performance, but I like it. I think it's worth the wait because it has a lot of great services. So first you click on Set Up Jetpack. So it's going to want to connect to a WordPress.com account. I already have one. You can set up a free WordPress.com. That's different than WordPress.org. Like WordPress.org is where you get all the free open source stuff. WordPress.com is where they sell plugins and themes and all sorts of different things. But you can sign up for a free WordPress.com to connect certain plugins like Jetpack and Akismet, which I'm going to show you next. So I'm already signed into WordPress.com, but otherwise it would tell you to like sign up for an account, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to go ahead and approve since I'm signed in. You can have multiple sites all connect to the same account. And you can decide what you want to have. Jetpack, you don't have to do a pay-for version of it. I believe there is a free version. So it tries to show you all these ones you have to pay for up front with all these extra bells and whistles. You don't need to do that. Let's just start for free. And once you're in here, it's going to activate a few things. You're going to have some various elements that come along with it. So there's some security elements, some optimized performance elements. There's a lot in here. There's site stats that come with it. There's extra apps, all sorts of different things. So right off the bat, this is just sort of like the landing page. Go to Settings, though. And a couple of different things that I like to turn on. Like I leave on the brute force attack protection. Sure, that sounds good. Just in case somebody decides to attack my site and try to crash it and take it over. I'm going to go to performance here. This site enabler, this site accelerator, I'm sorry, is really good. If you have images that are loading slowly, you can turn on this enable lazy loading, which lets them progressively load. That's fine. You have this, this is one of my favorites under media, is displaying images in a full screen gallery. This is a really nice one. So if I go, just as an example, and I go to one of my test posts, so this welcome future site, I have this kind of like old school gallery. If I click on an image, it just goes to the image. I can zoom in and out on it, but then I have to use the back button to get back out again. That's kind of a pain, right? So if I activate this gallery system, I can also have it show like EXIF data when available. And it's going to put it into this carousel. And then I have like a black and a white color scheme as well. So I'm going to leave it on that. And now if I come back here and I reload this page, I should have the new WordPress gallery now, which is really nice. So it has this little navigation system. I can click through. Any EXIF data would show up down here right now. I can click on the full size version. I can leave a comment. And anytime I'm done in this gallery, I can just click off and go right back to the page. So I don't have to use my back and forward buttons. So lots of other gallery plugins out there, but that's a pretty nice one from Jetpack that's built in. So I highly recommend everybody turn that on for your images. Beyond that, you can go through here and decide. There's like a portfolio setting to showcase your work if you want to. And it allows you to kind of like set up your site a little bit differently. We'll come back to that later, but I'll go ahead and turn it on. You have to add portfolio items through here, so it's a little clunky. Infinite scroll allows people to scroll through your archive pages, etc., etc. So if I come through here a little bit more, you can turn on sharing with social media networks and add share buttons to your posts. Now you have to, after you turn these on, you have to actually connect some social media accounts. So you have to click on here and actually like go through WordPress.com and connect them to your Facebook, your Twitter. But after that, you can actually make your WordPress post automatically kind of send the post to Facebook, just so you have like a one-stop spot. And you can configure which buttons you want to be able to add as well. If I want to be able to, like what size I want them to be and the types. And you can do Twitter or Facebook or blah, 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 or Instagram, all sorts of different ones. So there's a ton there. So those are kind of nice. There's some little commenting things you can enable. We'll go past those now. And then there's traffic, which you can do ads and things like that if your site takes off. But for the most part, not so much interested in that. Okay. You can, under performance here, I think I have everything enabled here. Yeah, that's pretty good for right now. And eventually you're going to get site stats. It takes a few days for the stats to show up. But if you activate site stats, it's kind of like Google Analytics. It'll show you how many people have come to your site, how often, and you can drill down into that information. So I always use the site stats. And yeah, I'll do this activate the speed boost as well to kind of just speed up how things load in and out. So I'm going to reload my dashboard here. And now you'll see site stats are here. Like I said, nothing's going to show up at first because it takes like a day worth of data for you to get much. So you'll have to just come back and see those site stats later. So yeah, Jetpack is a great plugin. Lots of great options in there for you. Highly recommend you take advantage of it. The other plugin I want to show you is Akismet. And this is an anti-spamming plugin. So as you can see, as soon as I clicked on Add New Plugins, it's like the first one on the list. It's been around forever. Again, it's from Automatic. If I activate it, I can get on here. And I'm going to go ahead and connect it to Jetpack. It automatically gets the API key as that. And it's going to put spam in a spam review folder for you. And I can save and be good to go. So by doing Jetpack first and then doing Akismet, it saves you this step of having to go and get this like manual API key and all this other stuff. It just does it automatically for you. So again, you're going to get spammed a lot as your site gets popularity and is on the internet longer. People trying to spam with comments and spam with messages, and Akismet helps just filter some of that out. So another highly recommended one for you. There's also, if you want to, a lot of backup plugins that you can do. So I can go to Add New, and I can look for like a backup. And there's a lot out here. I've used Updraft Plus. Jetpack has a backup system, but I think you have to pay for that one. There's a lot of different ones out there. I believe I've used this backup and migration. Usually I search for like the best ones, the most recent free ones that are out there. And these are really nice. The Updraft Plus, though, works really well. It has lots of options for saving it to your server or how you want to save it and how often. And it'll really save you if you end up messing something up on your site, something happens to your database. It'll back all of that and your content up. So you can always have a backup that you can go to. So I highly recommend you install one of these as well. So I'm going to go ahead and it does it automatically scheduled. I'm going to activate it here. You can go in the full automatic modes, but most of them want you to add a few details to them. So press here to start. You have a manual backup button. It's kind of taking me through here right now. I'm going to include the database, all of my files. I'm going to go ahead and back it up. And then I can go to my settings and I can choose, right now it's just going to this updraft plus vault, but you could put in FTP settings and save it to your server. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and what all you want to back up as well, and whether you want to get an email after it's backed up with a report and all of that stuff. So I'm not going to schedule the whole thing up right now, but it's a really great one to work with, and how often you schedule them is important too. It is going to use up some space on your server, but you guys have a ton of space on the Bluehost server, so I highly recommend you go through the process and get this all set up. Another really good plugin to do. You can also do some caching plugins if you end up getting a slower site. Okay, so the backup is good, closed. So if I want to, you can go and search for caching plugins. And this will help like cache images in people's web caches to speed up when they return to your site. I've used W3 Total Cache many times in the past. Again, this has a whole kind of like step and process to it. But it's installed. I can activate it. Jetpack does a bit of this, but this one really just kind of goes a bit further. And so there's some settings in here, or again, you can have it just run in automatic mode. And accept here. You can decide if you want to cache the database, individual pages, etc. When you do major updates to your site, you're going to want to like clear the cache. So lots to do here, but again, a really great system to add to your site. And you can see that goes under performance. I'm just going to test real quick. Pretty fast. Not a lot of time there. So a couple of these things are not available, so that's where we're going to have to go in and do some of the more manual settings. And that's where it might be interfering with Jetpack. So just got to double check and make sure, or it might be with the Google, some of the Google stuff that's already installed. You don't need to buy a lot of extra stuff or upgrade to Pro. It still will work pretty well on its own. So, you can empty all the caches on your site once you do like a big update, so that when someone comes back, they kind of have to load all your new updates and don't just load the old stuff. But you can set all sorts of different things on here. If you're not ready for that right now, you don't have to just leave it on. So you can always go back to your installed plugins. You can leave it installed, but deactivate it. Okay. So until I come back, I'm going to go ahead and deactivate W3 Total Cache. All right, the last thing I want to show you is a really powerful drag and drop editor plugin that really is like a system within WordPress, a whole other editing system within WordPress. So I'm going to go ahead and look for Elementor. So I'm going to add a new plugin. And we'll do a more advanced lesson on Elementor in the future here. But I'm going to search for Elementor. And it's this Elementor website builder. You get a free version, and then there's a more like pay for pro version, but the free version has a ton. So I'm going to go ahead and install. Totally different way of building out pages though, and your website in general. So just keep that in mind. And then there's themes that are optimized for Elementor. So keep that in mind as well, that work with Elementor. But it really allows you a lot of drag and drop ability, just so you can see what Elementor is all about. I'm just searching. It really allows you to kind of like, change your font sizes, how you structure each page, drag and drop items over, how you align them, how you move them around. There's a lot of different options in here of how you can build it out. If I click on the Get Started here, you can set up an account and get everything really rolling, but just a really amazing editor from a design perspective for those of you that want to go further and really be able to design your site out in more advanced ways. Elementor is going to really help you, particularly if you pair it with an Elementor theme. So you can get this and you can create your first page. It's all installed now. Here's Elementor. There's a full guide here that you should watch and go through if you decide to build with Elementor. but it kind of loads the system within the system. And like I said, you can build things out in some really amazing ways. So I can come over here and drag an image in, and then, you can right click on it and edit the image and do all sorts of different things to it. I could add different layouts and add columns and all sorts of different things to this structure. I can move things around. There's just so much that you can do with Elementor. It's kind of like, the block style editor, but just goes even further. So take the tour, walk through it. You'll have a lot of possibilities here. And like I said, I'll do a more focused. These are all under Pro, so you see they have a lock on them, so we can't really bring those in yet. But any of these general ones we can add in. It's another block style editor, but again, it just gives you more options. And so each of these, like how wide do I want these to be? 100%, 50%. Do I want it centered? My image here, all sorts of different things. Do I want that at 1020? Do I want to shrink that down? Do I want to center? Do I want to add a caption? I can come back here. I could add a icon here up to the top. Choose my image, upload something. It just goes on, and it's another type of editing. I could add another. Oh, those are locked as well. So, sorry, those ones are locked off still. So there's a decent amount that is free, but there are a lot of elements as well that are not. And so you can add a gallery and add images there. So anything that's locked, you can't. But anything else you could bring in some different ways. I can add a testimonial. Whoop, I didn't drag it properly. I can add in my own text here and change it. So really nice drag and drop options here. You can add in columns. I think the block editor is getting close to what Elementor can do, but Elementor combined with Elementor themes, particularly if you do the pro stuff and sign up for an account for it, you can do a lot more. And just all the ways you can style the colors and fonts and texts. There's just a lot here that you can play with. So once you're ready, you can hit the publish button on that and go live and make your own post. Take a peek here and kind of see how you've built this out. So check it out, take a look. You don't have to have it for your portfolio site, but it's just another advanced way to build out your system. There's also a Gutenberg editor that I'll show you in the future that allows you to do a lot as well. All right, I'm going to exit back out to my dashboard. So that's it right now. Hopefully that gives you a brief understanding of some key plugins that you want, some optional plugins that are out there, how to add widgets to your footer and sidebar, pretty much all these little additional things that you can add to your site. Please reach out as always if you have any questions, and thanks for tuning in.